Dear members of the press, dear friends, I greet you with my warmest feelings and respect. I thank each and every one of you for your participation in our press conference. We have just completed the summit of the European Atlantic Security. In this sensitive period of crises, conflicts, and wars. At the very beginning of my speech, I would like to express my gratitude to the Dutch King, Mr. William Alexander, Prime Minister Mr. Schoof, and the Dutch authorities for their excellent organization. I congratulate Mr. Rutte for his successful management. As the outcome of our summit was closely followed by the public, it was the increase in the defense spending of our allies. We decided to increase our defense spending to 5% of our non-profit domestic income over a period of 10 years. This decision, taken in a climate in which the existing crises have deepened and additional crises have emerged day by day, forms a necessity for NATO. We are allies directly affected by many crises in our region, which have suffered the most from the threat of terrorism. Almost all of the events currently dominating the international agenda are taking place in the vicinity of Turkey. We are trying to keep our country away from all these crises, hot conflicts, and tensions. We pay great attention to the increase of our deterrence and the strengthening of our defense, the great leap that the Turkish defense industry has made in recent years is shown with a finger in the world. We have a global reputation in many areas, especially in the field of armed and unarmed unmanned aerial vehicles. Our defense spending is currently above the 2% level, which was the goal of the previous summits. In fact, we are one of the countries closest to capturing 5% of our existing infrastructure and defense industry investments, the resources we devote to innovation, and our international efforts. I think it is right for many allies to come to the same line with us in terms of taking on more responsibility in the face of threats and tests. Of course, it is not possible to improve the effectiveness of the alliance by increasing only defense spending. It is also necessary to establish mutual understanding and cooperation among allies. In this regard, we have prioritized the understanding of the defense industry products in trade between allies to be removed without any harm, and to reflect it in the alliance documents. We hope that this will be implemented with all its elements. I underlined that the attempts of the European Union in the field of defense and security should be as complete as NATO. I emphasized that it would be in the interest of all of Europe to include the defense industry initiatives of the alliance, especially those who are not members. As a result, the increasing defense capabilities in Europe are at the expense of the entire European Atlantic region. We hope that this comprehensive approach will be dominant across the continent. NATO Secretary General's approach to the development of the defense industry, from Texas to Ankara, is extremely valuable in this respect. As you know, we are at the head of the allies who play a role in the fight against terrorism. As a matter of fact, terrorism has been recorded as one of the current two basic threats to NATO. This time, we emphasized that the fight against terrorism can only be achieved with the sincere support of the allies. We have ensured that this threat is reflected in the summit statement. In Ukraine, the war, which has been going on for more than 3 years, has had both regional and global effects. The number of casualties and destruction is increasing on both sides. As Turkey, we continue our intense efforts to end the war with a just and sustainable peace. In March 2022, we had concrete results, such as the Black Sea Tahulu Initiative and the War Prisoners Exchange, from the only remaining meetings we held in Istanbul. Our belief in diplomacy, when combined with the confidence of the parties, we once again began to find a way in Istanbul. In our meetings at home, significant progress has been made in terms of additional prisoners and funerals. In addition, there was an open exchange of views on a possible ceasefire. I am convinced that an opportunity window has been opened for a ceasefire and permanent peace. It should not be neglected. Our goal is to support the additional concrete steps among the parties and to lay the stones of the process of permanent peace. With the support of our allies, I hope that the war will be concluded as soon as possible. As I always say, there is no one who loses a just peace. We see that the threats and crises in the Middle East are becoming more serious day by day. In Gaza, I draw attention once again to the cruelties that have been approaching the Palestinian people for 2 years. Look, so far, 56,000 Gazais have lost their lives in the Israeli attacks. Again, most children and women, 129,000 Gazais, were injured. 80% of Gaza was destroyed. 95% of the health infrastructure was destroyed. Churches, mosques, schools, hospitals were bombed. More than 2 million Gaza brothers and sisters are fighting to survive under very difficult conditions while bombs are constantly falling on their heads. The Israeli government is hindering the entry of basic necessities into Gaza. Due to Israel's blockades and attacks, the humanitarian tragedy in Gaza has turned into a humanitarian disaster. No conscientious person can remain silent about such brutality. Babies are silenced while sleeping. Babies are not silenced while being killed. From here, I call on everyone who values human life to raise their voices against cruelty. However, we see that the international community, especially the relevant institutions, are unable to stop Israel. Israel, which clearly violates international law, which does not know any rules, adds new ones to its violations every day. Once this is well understood, it is necessary. Israel cannot ensure the security of its people by making the region unstable. Security in Israel, like all countries in the region, depends on the stability of its neighbors, peace and prosperity. What happened is based on the 1967 borders. It reminds us once again that the two-state solution, which is based on geographical integrity, is inevitable. As Turkey, our goal is to establish a peaceful environment where all peoples live in peace together. We have been living on the same land for 1,000 years. God willing, we will continue to live there forever. Therefore, for the safety of the entire region, we will continue to tell the truths, whether it is painful or disturbing. Dear friends, the latest military escalation between Israel and our neighbor Iran has put our region at great risk. As you know from the first moment of the crisis, we carried out intensive diplomatic traffic. We had telephone talks with the leaders in the region, foreign ministers of the Islamic Cooperation Organization, member states met in Istanbul. Here too, important messages about tension were given. I see the benefit of repeating the subject I mentioned earlier today. The permanent solution of problems with our neighbor Iran is possible with diplomacy and negotiation. Our region is full of examples of how it cannot be reached anywhere with war, destruction, aggression, and threat. We are pleased with the ceasefire reached by President Trump's efforts. We are waiting for the unconditional compliance of the parties to Trump's call. We hope that the actual ceasefire declaration will be postponed to permanent silence as soon as possible. I think that everyone, including allies, should put their hand under the stone for the guarantee of peace in the Middle East. We will continue to do what we can on this issue. I had many meetings with leaders within the scope of the summit. In this context, President of the United States of America, Mr. Trump, Chancellor of Germany, Mr. Merz, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Mr. Sturmer, President of France, Mr. Macron, Dutch Prime Minister Mr. Schoof, Romanian President Mr. Dan. In my contacts, we discuss the ways to develop our bilateral relations with our allies and the issues on the summit agenda. Our country's proposal to host the NATO summit next year is also a result of our summit. We are very pleased that our allies will be hosted in Turkey next year. With these thoughts, I hope that the summit will already be a means to good. Thank you for your interest and interest.